The world of wrestling is a world of positioning, all about positioning, power, being in favor of whoever has the book, the pencil, what have you. Now, Triple H, when you get to the year of 1999, Triple H is going from mid card, upper mid card, to being pushed as a main eventer. I have a deeper pause, full length video on how Triple H was actually not ready to be a main eventer in '99, but that's another video. Another video. But when you get to the fall of 1999, Triple H is being positioned as the next guy after Austin and Rock. Now, when you get to October, November, Triple H is the world champion. There was a short period where McMahon was the world champion, but he lost the belt to Triple H. And at this same time, Kurt Angle, an accomplished Olympic wrestler, one of the top prospects in the WWF developmental, the Dory Funkin' Dojo at the time, Kurt Angle did not grow up a wrestling fan. He grew up a fan of actual wrestling, as in, Olympic wrestling, mat wrestling, real wrestling. So, when you get to 1995, 1996, Kurt Angle, he goes through breaking his neck. He wins a gold medal, undersized, what have you. His Olympic career is over, collegiate career over, and he has to look for what he's going to do with his life. Real wrestling, Olympic wrestling, that's never been, and it probably will never be, a mainstream sport like the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, what have you. So a lot of these people who do collegiate wrestling, Olympic wrestling, amateur wrestling, they have to become a coach for it, or, get a regular job or move on to another career. So Kurt Angle, who after the Olympics, he went to become a local news person in Pittsburgh. It did not work for him. He wasn't comfortable. He didn't have what he needed to do it properly. He wasn't a natural at television in that way at that time. So, one way or another, he goes to ECW for an appearance. It's a disaster, whatever. I don't want to get into that. It's a known story. So then, at some point, Kurt Angle gets in touch with the WWF. Kurt Angle tells a story that in 1998, he had been watching Raw, and he saw Steve Austin and The Rock and Undertaker and what they're doing, and he was very entertained by it, and he thought, maybe that's something I could do. So he gets to the WWF. Of course, when they find out it's Kurt Angle and his credentials, they love that. This is a time in the World Wrestling Federation, Titan Sports, this is a time when Jim Ross is leading talent relations. He's the one leading the scouting, also with Gerald Briscoe. Both Briscoe brothers, they always loved the collegiate amateur wrestlers. WWF would scout at wrestling tournaments, NCAA tournament around the country at this time. That's how they became aware of Brock Lesnar later on, Shelton Benjamin, so on and so forth. They scouted, ex-football players, Draws, Bradshaw, JR was, JR to this day, he's still a mark for football. So if you played football, he loves you. He loves Goldberg because he played football, and he used to announce his games for the Falcons and Georgia Bulldogs, what have you. So they get excited when they get Kurt Angle's credentials. And he's in the developmental in 1998 with Dory Funk Jr., the Funkin' Dojo. Now, when Kurt Angle's in their developmental, they also have Edge and Christians there, the Hardy Boys, many people's there. Now, many people might not remember this or realize this, but Kurt Angle actually debuted in early 1999 WWF during a segment. There was a segment they were doing where I believe it was Ed Ferrara. I believe it was either Ed Ferrara or Russo, and I think they were giving Sable some sort of award or something like that. And Kurt Angle comes in, and I believe he like suplexes Ed Ferrara. So technically, Kurt Angle. And what's funny is you can see Karen Angle, right there with him in the front row. I do believe you can find it on YouTube. So technically, he debuted on WWF television in, I believe, the spring of '99. But throughout '99, he continues in his training, and he's moved to another developmental that was helping WWF at the time called Memphis Power Pro, Randy Hales. I believe Lawler was also helping down there, and this is where Kurt Angle developed his character of kind of like the American hero who's a snob, whatever the case. I believe he was a babyface, but he kind of had the same elements that he would get famous for. So they bring Kurt Angle up. His debut match, I believe, was against Sean Stasiak. I think he went by Meat Balls, or whatever the case. And Kurt Angle, they build him up as the first real athlete of the WWF, and he performs on SummerSlam '99. Excuse me, Survivor Series. Good Lord, Survivor Series '99. So when you get to 2000, Kurt Angle, he's really picking up wrestling, the character aspect in the ring, obviously, and he's really starting to get over very quickly. Now, very quickly, Angle did get pushed as the European champion, Intercontinental champion. Angle's very enthusiastic. He's one of these people. He was working the hardest, staying the latest. He was anxious to get to the next town. He didn't want to miss an event. He didn't want to miss a match. He would do anything. It didn't matter what it was. He didn't care about jobbing. He didn't care if he had to win or lose. He just wanted to do the best possible match. And this is something that is the reason why Kurt Angle is a legend and a success, because he had the hard work. He had the hard work ethic, the motivation, the ambition, the talent, charisma. He had everything. Kurt Angle, you can argue, is the greatest wrestler of all time. He checks every box. He checks every box. But at this time, Triple H, who's being pushed, and Triple H, it took him a long time to become a main eventer. Triple H, who is an insecure person, he does notice Kurt Angle is being pushed very fast. Now, when you get to the summer of 2000, Stephanie McMahon has been established as a TV character with Triple H. And there were people in the locker room, more veterans. Triple H is one of these people who believed Kurt Angle was getting too much too fast and didn't pay any dues. This is that nonsense of wrestling. Triple H believed this. He didn't pay enough dues. He's already an Intercontinental champion, European champion. He was on WrestleMania immediately in 2000. He won the King of the Ring. He was going over on a lot of the people. He was climbing the ladder. So when you get to the summer, Kurt Angle is very over. And at this time, they put an angle together of Kurt Angle, Stephanie, and Triple H, the love triangle. Now, the love triangle was Triple H and Stephanie got together in late '99. But then, Kurt Angle and Stephanie become friends, but then Triple H is jealous of this. And it was a tremendous storyline. Now, the problem with the storyline is most people don't remember the ending of it. And there's a reason most people don't remember. That's because when you want to bury somebody, you make sure it's not memorable, the ending. This storyline was going to be used to get Kurt Angle really, really, really over, because Triple H, who in the year 2000 was right there with The Rock as the top guy in wrestling, he finally got over. He was finally a main event star. Triple H is the highest drawing heel in wrestling history when you look at ticket sales. WWF house shows when he was champion were doing 10, 12, 15,000. Triple H is the highest ticket selling heel in wrestling history. This is a fact. And no one's going to touch him. The house shows today draw 2,000, 5,000. When Triple H was the heel champion, they were drawing 15,000 in NBA arenas. And it was him in the main event versus Rikishi doing this. Him in the main event versus Rock. Him in the main event versus whoever. Big Show, Mick Foley. Triple H is the highest grossing heel in wrestling history. Look up the numbers yourself. At least in North America, I'll put it that way. I'm sure Meltzer has some New Japan fetish or whatever that he broke down, whatever. hit the like button. I should have been said that. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video. Look up the older content. It's gold. It's me, damn it. So, at this time, Triple H is literally at his peak. Kurt Angle is getting to a point where he's becoming a top guy. Stephanie is the top female in wrestling at this point as far as being pushed in heat. At this point, Sable had been gone. Chyna was more in a comedy role with Eddie Guerrero, so Stephanie was the hardest pushed female in wrestling at this time of mid-2000. So Triple H did not want to put... The thing about Triple H is he don't want to put even his friends over. He don't even want to put his wife over. When they did this love triangle, there was a part of it where they did want either Stephanie or Triple H to put the other one in their place, but they viewed it as, I don't want to bury this person, I don't want to bury that person. Even if you go to the Triple H and Stephanie storyline of 2002, they tried so hard not to have Triple H completely bury her, or they always wanted to not even fully go against each other that hard. They broke up, they had angles, but they didn't always go all the way. If you know, you know. So in this angle, there was a proposed idea that Kurt Angle steals Stephanie, but in real life, Triple H was like, oh, that makes me look too weak if this geek steals my girl, and it makes me look like this. And it's it's wrestling, and they're trying to get a new person over. Part of this was Triple H trying to maintain his spot. They were both heels, but at times Triple H was made to look more face-ish during this angle. The angle played off of real life where a lot of people can relate to. You're a man, you're with this woman, some guy is her friend, you don't know who this guy is, why is he all around, why they're too close, you don't want this guy around your girl. So it was playing off something real life that many people can relate to. Now, if you're a mark for Dave Meltzer, you can't relate to this. But, Brian Alvarez, that monkey. So they're playing off this. Now, the original ending to this was going to be Kurt Angle goes over and wins the feud. But Triple H kept keeping that ending away and away and away. And then eventually, when you watch this feud, it went to Triple H and Kurt Angle, Triple H and Kurt Angle to SummerSlam being Triple H versus Angle versus The Rock. So they throw The Rock in it. It was like Triple H did everything to divert this from him putting Angle over, clean ending this. So throw The Rock in it. Then they go later on and they do an angle where Benoit headbutts Stephanie. So then put Benoit in it. Then they move Kurt Angle where Angle, Angle beats The Rock for the belt. So technically Angle reached another level, but Triple H didn't really put him over like that. It's like they just couldn't do a clear 1, 2, 3, Angle beats you, takes your girl. Triple H was not going to let that happen. So they just moved Angle to The Rock. So Angle becomes world champion. Triple H, he moves to Benoit. And then Triple H, he moves to being the one who ran down Austin. So then they just completely split it. Now, there became a point where Triple H was actually politicking in late 2000 for him to be the WWF World Champion instead of Kurt Angle. And it got to a point where there were people backstage who said they were tired of Triple H trying to interfere with the storyline. And there's a story saying that backstage, someone went to Triple H and said, if you're better than Kurt Angle, you think you can beat him for real? Triple H kept down-talking Angle behind the scenes, politicking against him so much, people backstage got fed up and said, why don't you beat Angle for real then if you're so much better than him? And then Triple H was quiet. And then he never mentioned taking the belt from him again, and they let Angle be the world champion until it was time for it to go to The Rock. So Triple H got sunned and shut up when someone put him back on planet Earth and not in this delusional planet he lives on, when someone said, you think you could beat Kurt Angle in a shoot? If you're so much better than him and he don't deserve this, why don't you beat him for real? And immediately Triple H had a stupid look on his face, shut up, and was quiet. You can look this up. This story's facts. And this is how far he was going to try and bury Kurt Angle. Just cannot put him over in this storyline. Even when the storyline's over, don't want Angle to advance. I got to be the champion. Great. And even the people backstage who usually listened to him and go along with what he wanted, even back then, even they got tired of him and they had to put him in his place. You think you could beat Kurt Angle in a shoot fight? Then why don't you go ahead and try in the locker room right now? And then he finally let it go, and things moved on for months. And then you get to 2001, and now they want to bring it back where it's like Angle and Triple H settle this feud, and then it really wasn't settled. It had no real ending. It kind of just ended. It wasn't like a dramatic triumph or thievery of his woman. Like, it just ended. Then Angle goes with The Rock. Triple H goes with Austin, and then they go to WrestleMania, and then they never are against each other again. I think a few years later they did like '02 when Triple H comes back. They do the thing of, you know, Angle Triple H Royal Rumble '02 build up, but then Triple H wins the Royal Rumble, and then Angle's in a mid card match versus Kane at WrestleMania 18. So it never had a real ending. Now in 2006 they do another draft lottery, and Kurt Angle is put on Raw, and they did do a funny segment where Angle is like, "I kissed your wife. I was with your wife," and then Flair jumps in, and then Flair and Angle have a woo off. But this Angle never really had an ending, and it's because Triple H and Stephanie didn't want to be made to look weak, even though you're heels. You're supposed to look weak at times, but that's the ego and insecurity of wrestling. And with that said, like, share, comment, subscribe, and that is it.